Okay, Bridget, are we almost ready? Then let's bring the December 21st, 2023 Webster Town Board meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dolly, can you take the roll, please?
Supervisor Flaherty.
Here.
Councilwoman Capelli. Present. Councilman Cahill.
Here.
Councilwoman here.
Well, the first item tonight is not on the agenda. It was a planned surprise for Councilman Abbott, who is retiring at the end of this month, and you got to give Bill credit. He surprised us. Yeah, Patty, if you can take the podium, and we were hoping that Bill's family was going to be here for this. I'll let Patty explain why he is not. And
So we were hoping to honor Councilman Abbott on tonight, his last board meeting as a councilman. And as Supervisor Flaherty said, it was going to be a surprise, but he surprised us. Well, I guess the real surprise is that his fourth grandchild is about to make his or her entry at any moment, which is a wonderful Christmas gift for the Abbott family, and he felt that he needed to be there. So unfortunately, Bill isn't here for this presentation, but we do have two members in the audience who I'd like to invite up. First of all, Councilman Dean, who will be accepting it in his honor. I'd also like to invite up the former supervisor, Ron Nesbitt. This is a proclamation for outstanding public service presented to William Abbott. Whereas William Abbott will be retiring in December of 2023 after more than 20 years of service to the town of Webster. And whereas Bill began working for the town of Webster's Highway Department in 1987 as a part-time seasonal laborer dispatcher, Bill worked at other locations such as MRB Group and was the Deputy Commissioner for the Public Works Department in Arundecoit. In addition, Bill was the Superintendent of Grounds at East Arundecoit Central School District. Bill worked as the Superintendent of Grounds for East Arundecoit from 2006 to 2017, and this is when he first retired. His knowledge and skills were versatile and advantageous in each job he obtained. And whereas in March of 1996, Bill was appointed to the Planning Board in Webster and remained a member of this board until January 2006. It was at this time that Bill was appointed for a one-year term as a councilman on the town board. Bill was re-elected many times as a town board councilman and served in this capacity from 2006 through his ultimate retirement in December 2023. And whereas during his years on the town board, Bill was thrilled to see many new projects begin and then completed. He enjoyed sharing his wisdom and vision on the exciting ventures the town was absorbed in, and was especially pleased of the new highway facility that is presently being built. And whereas Bill often spoke to his wife Dina about wanting to make a difference to the town of Webster, Bill, you have done just that. Your efforts will be appreciated for many years to come. Your countless hours and commitment to the town of Webster have not gone unnoticed. Thank you for your service and dedication, but now it's time to relax and enjoy your family and all those beautiful grandchildren. Now, therefore, be it resolved that on the occasion of William Abbott's retirement as the supervisor and the town board of the town of Webster, on behalf of the Webster Town Board and the entire Webster community, we extend our sincerest wishes to Bill for a long, happy, and healthy retirement. it is our honor to pronounce December 22nd, 2023 as William Abbott Day in the town of Webster. Signed, Supervisor
I must say I'm honored to accept this in Bill's absence. Originally, I just showed up to congratulate him, but I got called out of the bullpen to accept this for him, and it's quite an honor. Bill's a longtime friend. We've known each other for decades, long before he ever became involved with the town of Webster. We played ball together, we did all sorts of things together, but it is an honor. He has been a steadfast source of information and guidance on the town board since he's been there, so thank you. And I'll make sure he gets this.
I decided to attend tonight to honor Bill on his last night, and Bill didn't show up. So just like to give a shout out to Bill. Before his service on the town board, Bill was a member of the planning board for 12 years, and also co-chair of comprehensive plans in 2000 and 2004. Bill was the guru when it came to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, advising my administration and the current administration on the proper way to maneuver through the many state regulations. I'd like to thank Bill for his help in hand on the new recreation building, First Responders Park, Playground, and Spray Park, the rebirth of the new Town Hall boardroom, and the remodeling of Town Hall. Currently, Bill has been working on the new highway building, and I'm sure his presence in the coming months will be missed. I wish Bill all the best in the coming months and years in retirement, and I understand Bill is waiting patiently for his fourth grandchild coming any day now, and I wish him well with changing those new diapers. Thank you for your service, Bill.
Thanks, Ron.
Peter wanted to say a few words. Should we have him up to do that?
Peter, was it about Bill?
It was.
Oh.
I can wait if you, no, okay.
Jump right up. Let's see.
Okay, thanks.
It's all about Bill right now.
Well, it's interesting. This is supposed to be a celebration of Bill, and hopefully he can see this on tape.
I'm sure you will. So I want to thank you all. Hope you have a Merry Christmas. I was attending tonight about Bill as well. I've had the honor of being leader of the Republican Party now. I was elected 30 years ago, and all that time I worked with a variety of candidates. But I have to tell you, Bill, and Ron knows this because we were together in all these campaigns, when he first ran in 2006, he ran alone. So all of you guys who know what it's like to run in a team, right? Bill was the single candidate that election in the gubernatorial year, and we were running just Bill Abbott. We'd never done that before. And the other thing is, he only had the Republican line to work with, so we were all concerned about how this is going to work. We've never seen it before, never knew what kind of numbers he was going to get. He was the hardest worker. He walked to every house. He did it all on his own. He never flinched. He was just an outstanding candidate, and that was the pattern he set for the rest of his career in politics, and I'd say on the town board as well. And I brought I'm not going to go through all the differences in the numbers, but I can tell you now, every single time he ran, which was 5 times, he handily showed, the Webster residents handily showed what kind of popularity Bill had as they re-elected him each time. So, and I think he did a great job, and I just want to recognize that here. I did bring, because of course, I would have some memorabilia. So here we have the 2007 Webster map. Remember this, Ron?
Yes, I
And here's Bill. It's hard to see on the camera, but look at that hair. And so a lot younger then. And then Ron, I got yours too. And then the 2011 map as well. And then we can keep going. But if you look at all these candidates, Bill was running with Ron a lot, but then a lot of the other council members changed. But no matter what changed, the one thing that was always steadfast was Bill, his hard work, his dedication, and his ability to connect with the residents of Webster. And I want to thank him for that. It made our lives as a political party a lot better because we recognized that. He appealed to the voters. He knew what to say to them. He knew what to represent. And it was a wonderful thing to be able to work with him for all those elections. So I'm sorry he wasn't here tonight as well, but I do hope he hears this and understands how much the party appreciates his efforts over the past 18 years. So thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Peter. I'll just say I met Bill 4 years ago, and I'm gonna repeat really what Ron said. He's the expert on seeker, that New York State environmental thing. That's a big loss.
Yes, it
in this
is.
town, and and also I've made a lot of jokes with Bill on this dais over the last couple of years about how he's gonna chair the next comprehensive plan committee, and he just would roll his eyes like, I've done that twice, I'm never gonna do that again. But
He has changed all of his phone numbers. And
yes, he does, he doesn't want to hear it. And the last thing I'll say is, I honestly, and I wish Pat Stevens was able to make it tonight.
He is.
Or he's
He's
here.
here.
Right over here.
Oh, forget, Pat,
Wouldn't miss it.
beam again, right? Pat, I know you and I have talked, Bill's guidance the last year or two on getting that highway garage done, I don't know how you quantify it. I know you can quantify the fact that when the engineers first came in and said, this is how much it's gonna cost, and he said, no, it's not, you gotta get it down to here.
That's
And they
exactly
were
what he
like,
said.
well, okay, we'll go back and sharpen the pencil. But just the way, he was fantastic. And, so, sorry, Pat. I
No,
know you're another
you said.
color.
And I think he's not going to be answering Tom's calls, but I bet he'll answer yours.
Yeah.
I get it.
So, does anybody else, before we move on, this is not a Bill roast, so I don't want to have anybody, he doesn't have attendance. Okay, well, I hope the tape comes out good. Thanks. All right, well, I think then the next, the next item is Ron Camp from Miracle Field is going to take the podium and has a presentation, and I think he's going to introduce us to somebody.
I am, believe it or not, it's been almost 10 years since this idea to have a miracle field in this area started, and the things that have happened in 10 years are quite unbelievable. I mean, obviously we have a physical place, a nice field, we had lights put up this year, live streaming, the games and whatever. It started off as a baseball field. With that being said, in 10 years we've expanded to operate year-round with various activities. Next up after the first year is bowling, not at the field, at AMF Lanes. We had 75 bowlers last year, or the year before. Last year, 125. This year, I don't know, probably 150 or so. So to keep things going, we decided that it's time to have somebody, an employee, a full-time employee, to expand on programs, expand our outreach, and we, after a lengthy process of interviews and everything, I wanted to introduce Beth Kunico, who has a daughter who plays Challenger baseball over at Miracle Field. And Beth is involved with many other organizations. She was the best candidate, and we want to continue to strengthen the partnerships with the town and with other agencies that will be able to use the field. We want to increase the amount of people over at Miracle Field. There's a lot of time during the day the field's not used. We've got ideas. It just takes time, and I'm running out of time. So I would like to introduce Beth Kunico. She can say a few words, and you can get on with your meeting. But I want to thank the town for all the support, and we will still have a great relationship with Katie at Parks and Rec and Chris, and I think everything will just continue to grow. Big improvement coming to the playground, but we gotta wait for the state grant money to come in. That might be 5 years, I don't know. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for having me. I'll just say a couple things. So I've been a Webster resident for about 12 years. Prior to that, we were a Navy family for 10 years up and down the East Coast. But really, I'm from a very small town in Illinois. And I can tell you that that small town, even to this day, not when I was growing up or now, do they have a space for families with special needs. And so oftentimes in those towns, those families and those kids and adults with special needs go overlooked and unseen. And I think it is very fortunate, we're very lucky in Webster to have Miracle Field, to have a space where those families can come and just be a family and their kids can participate in sports. And I say that from, as Ron pointed out, personal experience. My daughter has cerebral palsy. She can't play competitively, but she loves sports. And if we didn't live here, if we didn't have this field and have these programs, she wouldn't be able to participate with her friends and feel that sense of community that everyone should feel. So I think that we are extremely lucky to be in Webster and to have this space, and I feel honored to be able to go from being a volunteer and a parent to now working for the program, and it is spinning a lot of plates. It's developing programming, trying to secure funding and grants, and getting into social media, and a lot of the challenges that go with running a well-rounded program. So I'm really looking forward to working with you all as things come to us over the years, and just very, very excited to see the program grow, and very thankful to the town for all the support that has gotten us to where we are now, which is an incredible place for all of our families. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, I don't know, Billy, did you change your mind?
Oh,
No? Because I
No,
don't
that was a
think
mistake.
we have anybody signed in who wanted to speak at the next item on the agenda, the open to the floor for each speaker, so just want to make sure, right? Okay. Then the next item up, Dolly, we have two board minutes up for consideration, minutes from the December 7th regular town board meeting after due. Make a motion that we approve them.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Councilwoman DeHaan?
Aye.
And I also reviewed the minutes of last week's December 14th workshop, and I make a motion that we approve those.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilwoman DeHaan?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill? Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
John, it was you, right?
Yes, I did review the bills, found them in order, and move we pay the bills as submitted by the Director of Finance.
Second.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman DeHaan?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. And I also went over the prepaid warrants as submitted by Paul Adams, our Director of Finance, make a motion that we approve them.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Councilwoman DeHaan?
Aye.
And I also reviewed the purchase orders submitted by Paul Adams, the Director of Finance, and make a motion that we approve them.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilwoman DeHaan?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Okay, the next item, Paul, I know that this got in somewhat late, just in the last couple of days, but we've done this the last few years just to paper up annual contracts that who produces the Webster today, so we want to
Yes.
a little.
Yeah, our contract with Solano Entertainment basically works with another gentleman to put the Webster Today together. And they sell advertising, and that advertising is split with the town, 65% for the town and 35% to them. So it serves to reduce the town's cost for each publication. So the budget for 2024 is $45,000. So we think we can do all 4 issues for slightly less than that. Pretty close to that number.
And I think for 23, for 4, came in under budget.
Yeah, I believe it came in just under.
I will say this, Bridget Harvey is sitting in the back helping us with the production of this live telecast tonight. She's our new Director of Communications. I think we're going to see some differences in the Webster Today in 2024. I think the community is really going to like it. But it's going to be all within that $45,000 budget that was approved.
That's the plan.
Within this contract. So, any other questions from the board members?
I would move that we authorize the town supervisor to sign a one-year agreement ending December 31st, 2024 with Pilato Entertainment Marketing and Media LLC for publication of the town magazine Webster Today for an amount not to exceed $45,000 inclusive of postage.
Second. Councilwoman Conley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. The next one is, I don't know if I've ever had something like this during my time as supervisor, and not having, unfortunately, Town Attorney Genesi is under the weather tonight, so he is not here. The town has been involved in a lawsuit for probably 3 or 4 years now with Collie Watkins, the town's whose name is a defendant, police department. I think the school district was also, and some individuals too. Basically, from the town's perspective, we have settled this lawsuit, and because Charlie's not here, I will say that we can't get into the terms of the settlement, but the board is well aware of what they are, and Charlie will have to counsel us on how much of that, if any, is can be disclosed or is foilable or whatever. But one of the terms that the plaintiff and their legal counsel requested within this is that at a town board meeting, the following statement, proclamation, if you want to call it, would be read by one of the town board members or the town supervisor. So without further ado, I'm going to read that statement. The town of Webster and the town of Webster Police Department unconditionally respect and accept the decision of the Monroe County jury in finding Collie Watkins not guilty of the charge of rape and clearing his name in the case of the people of the state of New York against Collie Watkins. And that is the statement. The next item up, I guess, John, this is your department, so we always tie the departments with the...
So I move to declare the following item for transfer from the cable department to the community development department. So Dell Mat 2, 764 laptop asset tag number 07618.
Second. Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn? Aye. Councilwoman Conley?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. Okay.
The next one is 2 items that are being recycled from the sewer department. Kennedy Toolbox Asset Tag 1994 and a Dell Precision Computer, no asset tag, but service number 8NLRR52.
Second. Councilwoman Conley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn? Aye. Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. The next item, I think has been tabled at the previous 2 meetings, or no? It was taken off the agenda on November 16th and then tabled on December 7th. Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
But it's ready to be heard tonight?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and is somebody here from 941 Gravel Road?
Is that where we went?
Ah, so Billy, you are gonna get up there,
I
okay,
am.
see?
Unfortunately.
Knew we'd get you up there. Well, I'm gonna take my later. So, is it Billy Webster?
It is.
Okay.
It's
Billy?
Billy Lynn, but Billy Lynn is too long, so it's Billy.
I like it. If you can just explain, what are you looking to do?
Basically, we're fine grading the north side of our property.
Okay, and I think we have really, to tell you the truth, the board, Pat, you, I think this letter is your blessing, and it looks all good, so, any questions, Jenny or John or Pat?
No?
Well, then, make a motion to approve an excavation fill permit at 941 Gravel Road, tax ID number 078.16-1-1.1.
Second.
Supervisor Larry?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn? Aye. Councilwoman Thomas?
Aye.
It's a lot of pomp and circumstance that congratulate, Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks again.
And then the next item, this one has, I know this one has been tabled the last two meetings, and I guess we're gonna make it a try back to it. We're gonna table this, I'll make a motion to table it, but I wanna say that I feel as though this past week we made some movement on being able to actually take the title of 600 Ridge Road. Not to sound like a broken record from the last couple of board meetings, but the county legislature on November 14th, they did the final approval to sell the property from the county of Monroe after they had taken it as a referee's deed in a real estate tax foreclosure. And the county legislature approved the sale of 600 Ridge to the town of Webster for $1. Now, sounds great, right? We wanted to make sure three things. One, there's a DEC agreement that the attorneys that we have hired to help the town, Knopf Shaw, is working out. I think there's 8 different parties that have to sign that agreement. In layman terms, it really protects the town against future lawsuits and the DEC coming and putting in a cleanup of whatever is on that site on the town. There's one agency that has not signed that agreement yet, the Oil Spill Fund of, I guess, New York State. From what we've heard, it's not that they have a problem with the agreement, it's a bureaucratic thing we're chasing around the gal or the guy who would sign it, so they have said they will sign it. The second issue that we've had is that the title company that we're working with to get an owner's insurance policy on it is the same one we worked with when we bought 8 acres at the highway facility a couple years ago. We bought that 8 acres off the county after their tax foreclosure auction. And we just wanted to make sure we had a title insurance policy so that we didn't have to worry in a year or two that somebody would come out of the woodwork with a priority claim of $1 million, and now the town had to pay that $1 million. Best way I can put it. Frontier Abstract, the title company, needed to make sure that they got the deeds from the county, the referee's deeds, and how they were going to then deed it to us, because believe it or not, devil's in the details on that, and we were having some problems getting the exact structure of it. I think we have it now. I think that will give Frontier Abstract the ability to now give us a quote on what it's going to cost for the title work and the title insurance policy, and hopefully by the next meeting we'll know if it's $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000. And if everything goes well, and Josh, I know you and Matt and everybody, this is almost a good segue into your presentation. I'd like to think that the town will have the title to that property by mid-January. And once we have title to that property, we will start to do some things with 600 Ridge Road. So, sorry if that's TMI, but I'd rather over-explain that than under-explain it, since 600 Ridge, the old furniture strippers, is a pretty linchpin issue in the town of Webster and has been for 20 years. So, any questions before I make a motion to table this? Well, I make a motion to table a resolution on the title work and abstract work with Frontier Abstract on 600 Ridge Road.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn? Aye. Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Aye.
So I guess that's my segue, or handing the baton off to kind of a we're not gonna have a workshop, the 28th, next week. We kind of are gonna put a little workshop in tonight, and so I'll hand it over to Josh and Matt Jack for a little presentation.
Thank you, Supervisor. So the topic of tonight's presentation is the 2024 Transportation Alternatives Program, also commonly known as the TAP grant. So we're going to just be presenting an opportunity that would help further our vision for this part of our town. So we're going to be covering a few things in the presentation. We're going to go over a review of the recent revitalization efforts to date and refresh your memories on some of the priority plan recommendations. Matt Chatfield from the Webster Economic Development Alliance is going to speak a little bit about the TAP grant program, the intent and eligibility. Then we're going to take a look at our proposed streetscape improvement scope of work and some preliminary cost estimates. We'll talk about some next steps, and then we'll open it up for question and answer and discussion with the board. But just to refresh everyone's memory, the map on the screen is illustrating the limits of the study area. It included Empire Boulevard from the Webster-Penfield line all the way to Hatch Road, and it also included gravel from Empire to Old Ridge, and then Old Ridge from Empire west to Bay Road. So I'm briefly going to go through this timeline of some milestone events just to refresh everyone's memory. This effort really did get its start back in June of 2021 when Matt was successfully able to secure a grant, a $90,000 grant to create a revitalization plan for this area. So then the town then spent 4 to 6 months developing the scope of work, developing a request for proposals for consultants, and by January of 22, we did select Ingalls Planning and Design to help us conduct the study. So we then went and formed some technical committees. We also formed a citizen action committee that was comprised of residents, business owners, and other interested parties. So we officially kicked off the project in March of 2022. Within the first 4 months, we went live with a online, what's called a social pinpoint online public participation website. We had over 800 unique participants. They were able to submit comments, ideas. There was a physical map of the study area, and they were able to place different symbols on different areas and come up with suggestions for needed improvements from their perspective. We then followed up with an open house, a public open house back in October of 22. We had over 70 attendees, which was pretty impressive. The following month in November, we engaged with the county's engineering firm, Day Engineering, and they began phase 2 environmental testing at 600 Ridge Road. We also had a structural assessment of that building performed in November, followed by an income survey of the area, the results of which indicated that this area does meet the threshold for low to moderate income, which opens up potential additional CBEG funding grant sources. So in January of 23, we received the 400-page report of the environmental site assessment from phase 2. Town staff and others spent the next few months trying to digest the contents of that report, which culminated in a public presentation in April of this year to this board at the Spry Cafetorium. By June of this year, we were able to wrap up and finalize the revitalization plan. And in September, 600 Ridge Road was once again on the foreclosure auction list. There were no bidders, as we've experienced each time it's gone up for auction. So then we began discussions with our partners at Monroe County, exploring the concept of the town potentially acquiring the property to complete some environmental investigations and really prime the property for private redevelopment. So we are here tonight to present our approach to this potential grant opportunity. So I'm just going to basically go over some of the priority transportation and streetscape improvements that came out of that planning effort. So the intersection of Old Ridge Road and Gravel was identified as the highest priority area based on community feedback. The graphic in the upper left-hand corner is what we call a heat map, and it essentially, the darker the areas, that means that's where the majority of comments, ideas, and concerns were noted from that social pinpoint site. So as you can see, the intersection of the four corners of the hamlet appeared to garner the most amount of feedback and need for improvement. Sidewalks and associated pedestrian amenities, safety improvements are strongly desired in this area. The second image on the left is what we call a word cloud. The words that you see, based on the size, that's how prevalent the common themes from the comments from the public were. Gravel, ridge, sidewalks, pedestrian, traffic. Those were all noted as the utmost important from the perspective of the community. And then the plan also recommends gateways, branding, the banners, and other public realm enhancements to really celebrate the area's history and create a stronger sense of place. So what you're looking at is the preferred Ridge Road cross-section that came out of the revitalization plan. As you can see, we have 66 feet roughly of right-of-way. We maintain a singular lane for each direction of traffic, but the plan really recommended the addition of sidewalks, the addition of a tree lawn between the street and the sidewalk that contains street trees, street lighting, pedestrian scale street lighting was also something that was highly desired. And you have just a concept of what some of that branding and signage could potentially look like. On the lower left-hand side is a graphic really showing the preferred improvements for the entire study area, including along Empire Boulevard and Gravel. The study does call for some realignments of intersections at Gravel and Empire, as well as Old Ridge and Empire. We are not pursuing those aspects at this point, and we'll get into that a little further into the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who's going to tell us a little bit about the TAP grant and what it's all about.
Great. Thank you, Josh. So Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP, is it's federal transportation funds that are then passed through to New York State and then passed through down to the town for the construction of pedestrian and bicycle improvements within public rights of way. So it's all non-vehicular improvements, and right now the state has about $103 million allocated for this particular grant program. A max grant request is $5 million, which can be no more than 80% of a project cost. So local match would have to be a minimum of 20% of the project cost. And it does cover everything from the planning aspects, which we've already conducted a lot of those planning aspects, all the way through to design, engineering, potential right-of-way acquisitions as needed, construction, and then construction inspection. So it's a very flexible source of funds that basically can get you from largely from project's inception to construction and completion. And it's a program that the town has used in the past. The town was successfully awarded about $1.45 million in these funds for those sidewalks from, 5 Mile Line east to Rachel on Ridge Road. So that was a TAP-funded program. And the village, and another local municipality, the village was awarded about $811,000 in those same funds for improvements to North Avenue, which is Route 250. And it was a similar type of project where it was sidewalks, street lights, and street trees. That project is actually a lot more similar in scale to what we're contemplating here in the hamlet of West Webster, and that's why I bring it up today. Next slide, please. So there's largely it takes about 3 to 4 years from the time of the grant application to the time they're actually under construction. And we have sketched out a simple schedule with a program launch in September of this year to a grant application, which will be due in January. The town's grant writing team, Gene O'Connell and Associates, they are actively working on that. In addition, we've also been working with the town's engineer consultant, MRB Associates, on devising an appropriate scope of work, and of course coming up with a cost estimate for the project. So if we are successful, approximately in June is when the award would be announced, contracts with New York State DOT, and of course getting under contract with an engineering consultant. You have to hire an engineering consultant, enter into a contract with them, hopefully by the end of 2024. And then moving through the design process, which would be approximately an 18-month to 24-month process typically. And then going through your final approvals and construction in 2027. So, next slide. It talks to this slide. Previous slide was talking about how long it takes for this to kind of come from where we are today through completion. So why now? Why would we want to go after this grant application now? Why not wait? Well, this particular funding source is only available every 3 years. So the way federal transportation dollars are allocated, it's a 3-year cycle. So in 2014, there was a funding cycle and the village was successful in getting their funding that year. In 2017, there was a funding cycle and the town was very successful in getting funding that year for sidewalks on Ridge Road. Community held off in 2020, now it's 2023, and we're back to the well with a great project that we want to put in front of the state for contemplation. And we've been working to build momentum in this area, in the hamlet of West Webster, for several years now. And we feel now is the time that would be most appropriate to seek funding to make some substantial physical capital improvements that would show that the public is truly committed to the revitalization of the hamlet. And that key aspect has been something that the private sector has often discussed with me as I have had private discussions with investors or developers about the properties surrounding that particular intersection. We have attempted to get state funding for revitalization of those buildings surrounding that intersection on multiple occasions. We've been unsuccessful in obtaining funding to support the private sector buildings, but I think we're going to be more successful, hopefully, in obtaining funding for the public sector infrastructure improvements along the roadway. And we feel that that will be a great step in the right direction of righting the ship there at West Webster. Now I'm going to hand it over to Josh, and he's going to talk about the process that we've been undertaking, I would say, the past 4 to 5 weeks now with MRB to right-size this project for presentation to the board.
Yeah, so this slide that you're looking at now indicates our proposed Phase 1 streetscape improvement project. It runs along Old Ridge Road between Bay Road and Empire Boulevard. The area indicated in red is gravel road. We would ultimately like to extend similar improvements to really is split into two areas, distinct character areas, if you will. Really primarily the section along Old Ridge between Empire and Cane Patch is what the plan refers to as the Hamlet Core. And then from Cane Patch west to Bay Road, it transitions more into a residential character and feel. So that's important because as we went through this process, we realized that we might have to scale back some things while still trying to have a meaningful, impactful project. So what I'm going to be showing you on this next slide, again, this is the preferred alternative that was identified in the revitalization plan. It called for sidewalks on both sides of the street, installation of granite curbing for the entire length of the corridor, in addition to adding tree lawns, street trees, and new street lighting approximately every 50 feet on both sides of the street. So we evaluated this from a potential cost estimate standpoint, and the number was pretty substantial. So the team quickly realized that would not be palatable at this time, so we really wanted to go back to the drawing board and sharpen our pencils. So, we were faced with the question, how are we going to still have a profound impact on the area while still being cost effective? So we went through a series of 3 to 4 design iterations, and what you're about to see are what we are proposing to be included in phase 1. Okay, so this is a Google Street View image of the intersection of Old Ridge and Gravel. Looking west, this particular section at the intersection we feel is important to really dress up. So it does include decorative concrete, tree lawn area for vertical separation between the vehicular traffic and pedestrians. We have included granite curbs for in close proximity to the intersection. Eventually it would transition into how it exists today with gutters and no curbing. So this treatment is really proposed for the segment that is Old Ridge between Empire and Cane Patch, and then it would really transition to a sidewalk on the northern side of Ridge Road from Cane Patch to Bay, which is what this next slide is showing. So you may wonder why we had selected the north side. Actually, the right-of-way, the road is not centered within the right-of-way. It's actually skewed a little to the south. So there's actually more room on the north side, and there's also less potential conflicts with existing light poles and things of that nature. So we feel that the treatment near the intersection will be a little bit more enhanced. It'll be more in character with what most people envision a hamlet to be, and then it would transition to one side of the street when it gets into the more residential area.
Just a point worth noting. It is a very simplistic graphic, so it was not intended to be a realistic representation. So when you see that green tree lawn going in front of someone's driveway, that is not the intent. The intent is that all the driveways would be maintained with driveway aprons, but the sidewalk would be inside of a green area between the gutter and the sidewalk. Just to make sure that there's clarity. Just make sure that there's clarity that graphic isn't misconstrued. That we would be proposing to remove driveway access. That's not the case.
So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Matt, who's
fun stuff. So, as we had mentioned, there's been many iterations of this project. Even in the planning document that was conducted by Ingalls, there was a very, very simple rubric that was put together about how much was anticipated that this first phase of improvements would cost. And it was actually relatively accurate, but we've broken it down into several project components. We've looked at this from a general cross-section perspective based on the types of materials that would be used, and of course the quantities of those materials over the length of these, the length of the corridor. And right now, the construction total is coming in right around $3.1 to $3.2 million of construction activities. Because that project isn't going to construction for at least a minimum of 2 years, we're required by New York State, as part of the application, to consider what's called an escalation factor. So we all know prices tend to increase over time, right? It's just inflation. So the escalator that we put in for the project was 8%. And then on top, since it is a very preliminary estimate, there's another 12% for contingency. These are things that, unfortunately, although we've given quite a bit of thought to a lot that's going to take place during this project, we still clearly don't have enough information, nor do we believe we've likely identified all potential scenarios or variables that could come into play. So another 12%. So we're adding 20% right off the bat to bring total construction to just under $3.8 million. And then there are state mandated and federal guideline mandated requirements for all these soft costs that come into play. And those percentages that we're required to use, it's part of the application process. They actually hand us a spreadsheet with all the percentages already plugged in. We can't deviate from it. In the end, that number comes up to 1.3 million, but that takes you through all of the engineering, the environmental review, the bidding, the construction inspection, all of those soft costs, which on average is typically roughly in that 30 to 33% range. So that brings us to a total project cost for improvements from Empire Boulevard on Old Ridge all the way to Bay Road, providing continuous pedestrian connectivity throughout that corridor, in addition to focal point improvements at the intersection of Gravel and Old Ridge of about $5 million. That's what we're projecting today. The cost would be in about 2 to 3 years from now. So as a result, that is the project cost. So the town would be eligible to ask for 80% of that funding, or 80% times this, $4 million. So the remaining $1,016,000 plus or minus would be required to be matched with funding other than federal transportation dollars. And where we come up with those funds is a slide that I think Josh is going to talk about. But that's kind of where we are as far as this project and the opportunity before us. So that's the estimated cost. Oh, and this is me again, perfect. So in addition to understanding the cost of the project, we're trying to identify what these potential benefits would be. And other communities have conducted numerous actual statistical analyses, so we're able to kind of glom onto what other municipalities have been able to achieve. New York City has done a study of economic benefits of its sustainable streets or streetscape improvement projects that have focused on prioritizing pedestrians and bicyclists over vehicles. They did this study back in 2014, looking back to any projects that were conducted in 2006, 2007, and 2008. Right? So they looked back many years later, and then understood what was the change in assessed value, taxes that were generated from a sales tax perspective in these neighborhoods. Clearly, we don't anticipate sales taxes to be a substantial change within our neighborhood here, but assessed values and property values we do anticipate would change and would increase over a period of time. And a lot of the studies that have been conducted to date, both in New York City and in Minnesota, indicate 10, 15, 20%, potentially even up to 32% increases over a 3-year period post-construction are not out of the realm of possibility. And although no one likes to think as a resident about, wow, your assessed values go up, which means my taxes go up, well, that's considered revenue for the town, but that's also potential equity in property to go on for those homeowners, right? So they hopefully will be able to benefit from that equity in their property, maybe hopefully reinvest in their properties and continue the cycle of improving the neighborhood. We're hoping to be able to kickstart that process with this project.
So in terms of potential funding sources for that 20% local match, we've identified several potential sources. It could be proactively budgeted for as part of the town's annual budget process between 2025 and 2027. The use of the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA funds, could be another potential funding source for that 20% match. As I mentioned earlier, the income survey that was conducted did identify this area as being low to moderate income, which opens us up for additional what's referred to as CDBG funds. Obviously, there are a plethora of other grant awards, and we would just obviously seek ones that apply to this sort of project. There is even the potential for private contributions, potentially utilizing some of the town's general townwide fund balance, or potentially a capital project bond. So the next steps for our revitalization effort, it's a multi-pronged approach. So in terms of the planning study implementation, I intend to come back to this board and fully present the plan for formal adoption, which will then pave the way for us to pursue the recommended zoning changes for the area. And we're going to continue our increased efforts in this area in terms of property maintenance and code enforcement. In regards to 600 Bridge Road, the former furniture strippers facility, we are going to continue to work with the county on ownership transfer to the town of Webster. Once that takes place, we will make some efforts to empty out the contents of the building, make sure it's secure and weather tight, and then we would look to complete the necessary environmental investigations to better position that property for private redevelopment. And then in terms of this, the pursuit of this grant, as we mentioned, the deadline to submit is January 9th, so we don't have all that much time, but we have completed a good deal of work that would need to go into that application. So one of the requirements of the application is a commitment from the board stating that if we were to be awarded this grant, that the town board is committed to that 20% local match. It's not appropriating funds at this point, but the state, I believe, and the feds just like to confirm that the decision-making body is actually on board with pursuing this. So with that, I will open it up to any comments, questions, or dialogue. As you can see on the screen, on the left-hand side is what it presently looks like today, and the right-hand side is the vision that's been spelled out in the revitalization plan, and we strongly believe that this grant opportunity would really go a long way in helping us achieve that vision.
Sounds a great plan, for sure.
So first I want to thank you and thank Matt for really spearheading this effort, and for all of everyone who has really taken part in the study and creating a vision for what this could be. I think it's tremendous. My question is, the TAP grant application is due by January 9th, so I assume that you're looking for us to adopt that revitalization plan on our meeting on the 4th?
No.
No.
I don't believe it requires adoption of the plan. It it just requires a resolution stating that the board would be willing to commit the 20% if awarded.
So we'll do that on the 4th.
Patty, actually, well,
At any time between now and the 4th.
sure.
Right.
We have on the,
Is it on here?
we have on
A potential resolution?
yeah, and
Okay.
it's either gonna happen tonight or on the 4th. It's interesting because obviously with the 9th being the deadline,
Right.
we could talk through that. There was merit to looking at doing this tonight. Of course, I thought Bill was gonna be here. Catching up a new board member on the 4th. Can be done.
Asking a lot.
Can be done. So I'm glad, at the end of the day, this comes down to the fact that if we want to apply for this grant, it comes around every 3 years. One of the checking of the boxes that is in the grant application is the town board at the time committed that they were in for the 20% match if the program was awarded. Now, in June of next year, if we apply for this grant, we do a resolution to commit to the funds, this would be, I guess, a good problem to have. If we get awarded the $4 million, that is, the presentation showed, there's a multitude of options for how we can come up with the $1 million match. And this area would be kind of there'd be a lot of things going on in parallel, other grants that we could apply for. So I just wanted to make sure, since I was involved in these iterations that they described, I mean, this thing started out way more than $5 million myself. There's no way we can go for something that's going to cost $15 million and say, wow, we're going for a $5 million grant, and the town's going to do a commitment to another $10 million. That's a non-starter. So that's where all the iterations kind of came down to. It's not as simple as just coming down to a dollar amount that's palatable within the framework of this grant, but where the project still, as Matt and Josh described, still has some meaningful, how do you describe it, Matt and Josh?
I mean,
It would resonate.
It needs to resonate, it needs to be a competitive and compelling application.
So,
Well,
it's interesting, I mean, I think the grant was opened, the opportunity opened September 29th, so they really give you October, November, and December to get your stuff together, and then the deadline is January 9th. I was hoping we wouldn't be coming this late, but the iterations really made us have to sharpen that pencil and do a lot of things. We were supposed to present this last Thursday. Anybody that pays attention to these board meetings, I said to Matt and Josh, did not think they should follow up with this presentation last Thursday based on what we were presenting last Thursday on the topic. That wouldn't have been fair. I don't think the board maybe would have been clear-headed to really absorb and listen to everything about this TAP grant. So,
Well, I think that we've certainly shown that we're committed to this. We've been talking about it for quite a while. And my goodness, we already bought a building for $1, so I guess we need to move forward, right?
but we haven't yet.
What money we saved there?
We have not yet. Yeah.
But to that point, we haven't yet. But if you look at how long that building has been in purgatory and how long the community has been concerned about that, I think it's wonderful that we're finally starting to see some movement and some positive progress.
Yes, and I think, I want to make sure that John and Jenny, any comments, questions they have. Like I said, because I've been involved in this, I knew what Matt and Josh were going to present. But some things that I just wanted to make sure maybe are in between the lines of this presentation. They referenced the income survey we did last year that showed that this area is lower income than the town of Webster as a whole. that survey will expire in a couple of years. That's a real feather in our cap to get money over there, so we said, well, let's wait until 27, that we would have to get a new survey done and whatever. It's minor, I think it's minor, but, you know. The other thing is that at some point, and I don't want this to hold up a commitment resolution on this, but I think we all looked, when we were putting these iterations together, that the soft costs seemed kind of high. Which is $1.3 million on a $5 million project. It's 26% of the project. But as Matt and or Josh described, it's state and federally mandated how you do certain things. Very heavy. Be interesting to know actual soft cost dollars and as a percentage of the total project, Paul, on the Ridge Road sidewalks. Because just because they ask us to quote them this way when we go for the grant, I think we've done a very good job at this town to manage projects to keep them under budget. But I wouldn't be surprised if the actual soft costs that were spent on that Ridge Road sidewalk project were less than 26%.
I can put that together.
You know, so that's really all I had. Jim, Matt?
I don't have any questions. I think the board is committed to this project and have been for quite some time. The only thing that I would suggest that, you know, is at some point when we look at that building at 600, because it has been sitting vacant for so long. When I did my walkthrough with some of the personnel, I questioned the structural aspect of that building. And the longer the building sits vacant and goes through the 3 seasons, right, it deteriorates more and more and more. So that's the only thing I'm really concerned about before we go in there. We should, you know, have a structural engineer do an inspection. But as far as the project overall, you guys done a great job, and I think we're in a very good position to get additional grant monies. And I'm fully committed to it myself.
I think it's great projects, you know, community been looking forward to this. So I commend it, you know, all the people that are involved in it. I'm just hoping that, you know, we would have the funds set aside and that we will get the grant, you know, to fulfill the dreams, you know, of our community for this project.
Well, it's 8:37. This is the last board meeting of 2023. So this is, I think, the last action of 23. I'm going to let it rip and let's see what happens here. I'm going to make a motion for the town of Webster to commit to the 20% match on the TAP grant being applied for by January 9th, 2024 on the West Webster Hamlet project, if said grant is awarded.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn? Aye. Councilwoman Cosarelli?
Aye.
Well, that concludes our agenda for the evening. Yeah, it's an interesting night considering, you know, Bill Abbott's last board meeting, and
You will be missed.
you will be missed. We'll do our round table. Paul?
Everything's a good time. I'd like to wish everyone happy holiday season, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy?
Yes, yeah.
You're at the table.
Great, well, thank you for the opportunity to present today, and as always, it's a pleasure to serve the community of Webster. Merry Christmas to you all.
Josh?
I just want to thank the board for their support of this and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Okay.
I want to thank Sherry Wood for spearheading the Wreaths Across America. It was a wonderful turnout on Saturday, and last year she did Webster Union Cemetery. We covered all of the veterans' graves in the one cemetery. This year, she was able to grow it to 3 cemeteries in Webster. Webster Union, Webster Rural, and Union Hill cemeteries. And I know she's hoping to get all 5 covered next year, but it was a tremendous turnout. The community got behind it, and it was really a wonderful event. So I want to thank Sherry for all her efforts in that. And I want to wish everyone happy and healthy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Jenny?
Well, like always, I'm honored to be up here and to have been elected to serve our community. I wishing everyone from my family to yours a wonderful and a happy Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Please come out and support your community and support your library and also your museum. They need your support, so we can keep the tradition going for this wonderful community that we live in. And thanks everyone to make that happen. Have a wonderful holidays.
John?
I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and safe travels as you go to see relatives, and may the time of your families this holiday season be enjoyable for everyone.
I'll betcha I know what Dolly's gonna say.
Just another reminder, the taxpayers of collection of town county taxes begins Friday, December 20th.
Well, we will see everybody back here on January 4th for swearing in, the organizational meeting, and our first town board meeting of 2024. But for 2023, in this board meeting, we are adjourned.